A warm welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join us for this discussion. I'll hand it over to John if he's joined us. I think John is not with us so far. Let me check again.
I am with you,
John,
Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, John, for being here. I'll hand it over to you to take the discussion forward.
Thank you very much. And good morning, Dr. D. We haven't spoken in some time. It's good to see you again. And Natasha, hi there, and the rest of the panel. I think what is very important is that in today's we had a discussion about this. There are 4 key elements that that I believe that as a function or as a ICT capability that we
Hi, John.
Enhance.
We can't hear you clearly. I'm not sure if it's just
within the cloud environment is that we need to focus on 4 particular quadrants. And the first one for them is around business transformation. Now, business transformation. Yes. Sorry, you said something?
John, it's Natasha. I mean, you're not coming across clearly, or is it just on my side?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
no problem.
Yes. Well, you're breaking up a bit. Yeah.
Sorry, can you hear me now? Off my headset. I don't know if it's because of the headset that you can't hear me.
We can hear you, John. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now? Okay. I think it might be the connection where I am. Is it possible that I can maybe just ask your indulgence? Just give me.
Yes, John, perhaps it's going to be best if you just log back on this call because your voice is breaking up and your video is not coming on. So why don't you log off and then log on to this call again? In the interim, I will just take the first 5 minutes to get a quick introduction of our speakers. Let's start with you, Dr. Denisha, if you could give a quick introduction. And by the time, I hope John will be with us.
Okay, an introduction on myself. Yeah, so I'm currently the Chief Director of IT at Stellenbosch University. Prior to that, very, very passionate about the IT industry as a whole. I sit on a couple of boards, the Railway Safety Regulator, together with the Financial Intelligence Center, as well as the South African Qualifications Authority for my specialization in IT specifically. Prior to that, lots of experience in the IT industry, ranging from the South African Revenue Services, together with Absa Bank, together with Barclays London, and then Development Bank, as well as the City of Joburg, and now I'm at Stellenbosch University. Very, very excited, and I think that technology is agnostic of industry. The more different types of CIOs go through different types of industries, the more exciting it gets. Yes, I'm very excited. Thank you.
Right, Natasha, a word about you, about your experience.
Hi, everyone. I'm Natasha Moodley. I'm the sales manager of Kyndryl. Keep that in mind. I'm going to come back to who are we actually later on in the conversation. I have over 23 years of infrastructure services and IT experience. I'm passionate about people, customers, and everything related to that. And I have a weakness for pizza. So that's me in a nutshell. Thanks, Anisha.
Weakness for pizza doesn't show, Natasha. Harrison, let's hear it from you. Can you give us a brief profile? You're in the FirstBank.
Yes, my name is Harrison, and I'm the Group CISO for FirstBank Group, and majoring more on cybersecurity, compliance, networking, transformation and business optimization. Prior to that, I had worked in the telco industry and also worked for IBM at some point and worked for another bank before now. My background is core technologies, from engineering to educational and other things that I have done. So I'm more like a business transformation officer in the area of cybersecurity. But with vast experience in a whole lot of other things that may come into light as we have the conversation today. Thank you.
All right. Your experience in cybersecurity and compliance will really be insightful for this discussion, because when you talk about cloud, all these issues are very important. Shoyinka, a quick introduction of yours as well.
Yeah, good day, everyone. I'm actually sitting here on behalf of Shoyinka. He's actually had an emergency and unable to attend, but this is Ebuka from MTN Nigeria. I lead the technology delivery of fintech digital VAS service delivery in MTN Nigeria. I'm actually well experienced in the fintech area and digital services. Previously worked in the banking industry, driving transformations there. Worked also in IT consulting, leading transformation of various organizations, and currently in MTN Nigeria as a senior manager, driving the technology evolution of MTN Nigeria in the areas of digital services, financial technology, and other VAS services. I'm very passionate about digital transformation. I'm very passionate about innovation and IT management. Thank you.
All right. John is also with us. John, we just had a quick round of introduction of all our speakers. So I'm now going to hand it over to you to take this discussion on cloud adoption forward.
Thank you very much. I hope that my sound is a bit better.
Yes, we can hear you. Please go
Okay,
ahead.
that's brilliant. That's brilliant. So, yes. My apologies for that. There was some background noise that I'm just asking them to hear. That's better. So as far as transformation goes, I think there's 4 categories that I'm going to request the panel to cover. The first one is around business transformation, which talks about the focus on how we need to improve business, how we need to improve the operations, the strategy you do in terms of implementation and performance improvements. The second one is around economic transformation. Now, the focus here is very simple, is how do I improve my revenue? How do I find ways to maximize my revenue enhancement and how my profit and sustainability? And also, if you're in government, how do you actually then go about enhancing the growth of SMMEs and small businesses? Now, the citizen or customer transformation focus is around how do you actually engage the customer journey or a citizen journey, depending if you're in public or private sector, and how do that then help you to improve your customer value chain and how they access and how do you automate that across it. And in smart transformation, your typical smart city, smart business is around how do we then deploy technology to play that role around cloud, AI, IoT, the bots, etc., and the things that you're talking to. So I know that when it comes to business transformation, a lot of companies, what they're doing when it comes to digital, they try and find problems to solve. But what I'll do is I'm going to open up the floor to the panel, and I'm going to ask each one of them to give me their perspective of each of the quadrants and give us their perspective of what it is. And I think that way we'll get some maximum value if we cover all 4 of the areas. So I don't know if Natasha is still with us. I don't see her video. She's still, oh, there you go. Natasha, if you can maybe start off with the smart transformation component around how the use of technology will play a role around cloud, AI, IoT, and business process automation. And then once you are done, Dr. Denisha, I know how passionate you are about citizen transformation and customer transformation. So I would love you to have a discussion around that, taking in mind the time. And then economic transformation, we can then give to Harrison as an example, because from a banking perspective, how we grow the economy, how we improve revenue, and how we actually have to grow SMMEs, I think is falling well within his space. And then business transformation, we'll give then to the other panel members as well, to then talk to those requirements. And then I will then summarize as the moderator around each one of those and what I believe the 10 key points of focus should be around that. So Natasha, you are first on.
Thanks, John. Nice to see you again. Good day, everyone, and thank you very much for joining. Again, my name is Natasha Woodley, and I'm the sales leader for Kyndryl. So just a quick one, there's a few buzzwords that John mentioned, smart technologies and all of that. So I'm just going to go 2 steps back, and then we'll kind of summarize everything in a nutshell. So thanks to COVID, digital transformation was a popular buzzword in 2020. Everything changed, everything accelerated. I mean, it became, you know, the new talk around the block. And for me, I believe that it's redefined the hows and basically how we do business. The focus of digital transformation is on delivering exceptional value to customers and not merely just using cutting-edge technology. Some of them that John mentioned, smart cities, cloud, AI, machine learning, big data, you know, the list goes on and on. I mean, it just never stops, as you're all aware. Today, organizations are engaged in individual and unique business transformation journeys. The goal is to differentiate the business and drive new value, and obviously to better our customer as well as our employee experiences. But as we all know, change at scale is really hard. Our teams at Kyndryl have looked at organizations through all industries, globally as well as locally, and we found basically 2 common challenges. The first is the increasingly complex IT infrastructure that we all have, and the second is the critical shortage of technical expertise to basically help with this, for digital transformation to be successful. And this basically includes strategy, planning, execution, and just the ongoing management. We've changed. I heard the speakers talk earlier about times are changing. We need to adapt. Is this the new normal? Is this it? You know, how do we move forward? But as you know, as times change, technologies change, right? And customers' behaviors change as well as people. So for me, I think satisfying customers and the employee experience is just the crux to all businesses today. And therefore, adapting digital transformation is key to providing this exceptional experience. So thanks, John. I want to share a little bit about Kyndryl, but we can come back to that, being the largest IT infrastructure business.
Thank you very much, Natasha. In fact, you know, there is one little question that I just want to pose to you from the perspective of smart transformation. So there are all these buzzwords that are going around. What is your recommendation on how they should actually decide and prioritize which one of those are applicable for them? And is going to the cloud a solution, and how they should approach it?
Thanks for the question, John. For me, based on what I've said, I mean, there's all of these technologies. I think it's up to the individual business, what direction they want to head in. I mean, it could be cloud, it could be something else. So it's about getting to the actual deep nitty-gritty of your business. What is your strategy? Where do you want to go to? What do you want to actually achieve at the end of the day? And then we can apply the right technology to that. And I'm happy if anyone wants to reach out to me after, we can go look at it in depth on each of these technologies and what works best for you. It's not a fit, you know, in terms of this industry, this is a technology that applies in that industry. I think it's just a fit and a mixture of all.
Thank you, Natasha. So I think there we have it, team. So we're talking about finding the right fit for your organization. And I think the other 3 quadrants that we are discussing, I think goes a long way to assisting customers with finding that right fit and then deciding on the technology as to how they're going to deploy it. But before we get there, I think at the end of the day, we're all in the business of serving a customer. And when you're in government, you're serving the citizens. So Dr. Denisha, as a diligent public servant, what is your suggestion and contribution to make around citizen and customer transformation, and how the focus of that can actually help improve not just the customer journey, but also access to basic services? Dr. Denisha.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, John. And so nice to see you after some time. And thank you for having me on the panel. I definitely think that, you know, from a citizen or a customer perspective, there is an evolution of our citizens and of our customers. And the evolution is they want answers. They want immediate and instant assistance. So we as technology leaders, need to always understand the evolving needs of the citizen and the customer. And if we understand that, it's very easy to look at in the value chain of delivering the technology, what would be the elements that you need to make sure that can deliver for these instantaneous citizens and customers, because everything's instant, everything's available, and they want answers, they want service, they want things now. So we are living in the era of now. We are living in the era of instant. So we need, as CIOs or leaders in the technology industry, to understand that. And when you understand the value chain of how will your technology now meet the need of the evolved citizen and evolved customer, that is when you can easily pick up whether you're using infrastructure as a service, software as a service, platform as a service. What are the elements in that value chain before you actually deliver to the citizen? What are the elements that you need to make sure that it flows through and provides the service to that citizen or customer? So, for example, with cloud, you would need to make sure that speed is addressed. You would need to make sure that performance, latency, governance, those are the things that you need to or the principles upon which you need to make sure that are met along that entire value chain before an end service is provided to a customer or a citizen. So understanding and as technology leaders, you need to always stay abreast with the evolved customer, with the evolved citizen. Because if you don't, you could lose a very, very important part of the market, especially in government as well. Now that information is available and technology is the biggest leveler, because information is available to our poorest communities. So they want answers. They need to understand, why haven't we had service delivery? Students need to understand, where is my application and why haven't I received a response, etc., etc. So we need to understand the evolving needs, stay abreast of that, learn very well from the case studies such as Nokia, where if you do not stay in tune with what your customer is looking for and the evolving needs of the customer, you could become irrelevant very quickly. Like we've seen in the case study of Nokia, where we don't have Nokia, not one, I would believe, in the world today. So I hope that addresses that quadrant for you, John.
Thank you, Dr. D. I was raising my hand. I still have a Nokia at home. Whether it's the same Nokia brand, we know, but let's say I think they learned their lesson around that. Now, one of the key things I wanted you to touch on, and if you pardon the pun about your customer journey, and we're not talking about a metro bus, but I think even within the university context, getting students there, getting that single journey for them. What is your advice to customers if they want to decide on something that will have the greatest impact of having a customer journey with them, whether it is to engage them or to participate in services, or in your instance, driving smart education strategies around improving that sort of customer or citizen journey? What is your key points that you think they should focus on to achieve exactly the points you're trying to make?
Sure. I think, they need to give us signals, to say, is this working for me? Is online student registrations effective enough? Can we improve it here, there? And what are the small things we can do that will create a big impact to a student's life, for example, whether they're coming here to stay on the campus, whether they travel, or they're studying online, distance learning, whatever the scenario may be. So having that communication and signaling to us, and as technology leaders, pay attention to the signals. Make sure that you keep your ear to the ground, no matter what your customer may be, whether your customer is a student, whether your customer is a citizen, make sure you have the triggers in place that would be via the technology that you have, that will be able to signal to you, wait a minute, this is not working. They're actually looking for something else. They're actually hoping that you had a different capability or functionality available for them to register as students, or for them to, to give an answer on a burst pipe in the city of Joburg. We need instant answers, especially when it comes to service delivery, where it impacts you immediately. If you don't have water, if you don't have electricity, if you don't have whatever the services, that the city has to offer, then, and there's many of those, what would be the channel that you, together with your customer that you're serving, that you'd constantly stay abreast with and constantly need to understand? So there should be a digital channel between you and the customer, be it looking at social media feeds, be it looking at Twitter, whatever the mechanism is, but look at it, understand it, look at the trends, pay attention, do the scenario analysis, and act quickly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Denisha, for your inputs. And I think you've crafted your responses fairly well. It is about listening to signals. It's about understanding your customer. It's about knowing your customer, collecting the data and information, understanding what their pain points are. But I think simplifying it, you are saying that we actually need to make sure that there is a channel, whether it be part of an omni-channel, whether it be a telephone, a digital, a business process, or a mobile app for that matter. There needs to be an engagement that will allow your customer or citizen to engage with you on the services they want to render. And should they have issues and questions, they must be able to be addressed on those specific platforms. So thank you very much for your contribution, Dr. Denisha. I want to move next to our speaker for economic transformation, and I want to invite Harrison from a banking perspective to give us his take on what from a digital transformation will make the best value for money around finding ways to improve revenue generation. How do you do profit sustainability? But mostly also speak about the economic development and growth of SMMEs. Because I think in the digital transformation journey, we can't, as big players in the organization, drive that alone. But I think involving SMMEs and what do we need to do to empower them, I believe, is where the future sustainability of digital transformation lies. So Harrison, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but can you give us your perspective? Thank you.
Thank you, John, and thank you again for inviting me to this conversation. So first is on economic transformation. First, let's even understand. By economic transformation, you want to move people from lower productivity to higher productivity activities, right? You want to be able to do more with less, right? But when it comes to transformation, I think first thing you need to understand is that whether you're doing an origination-based transformation or a destination-based transformation, right? Origination-based is you look at what you have and you transform them and hope to get better outcomes, okay? But you also have where you focus more on destination to say, where do I really want to get to? And then walk backwards. And when you adopt that, what you realize is that in some cases, you need to do away with most of your practices, right? Instead of transforming them, you replace them, right? And that's usually, even though that is more intense, because again, you also need to retrain and you need to get people to unlearn things that they are used to, right? So, but for economy, you're going to be transforming two things. You're going to transform labor, then you're going to transform resources, right? So, and combine them to get higher output, okay? And you're also going to look at your pillars. The productivity pillar, where you talk about efficiency and effectiveness. You're going to look at your profitability pillar. Because again, the whole essence of transformation is to make things easier and make more money, especially for non-NGOs, right? So your first is, my recommendation usually is first to understand your current business and understand your appetite for change, right? Because if you come into if you embark on a transformation journey without first addressing your appetite for change, right, you may realize a situation where you are at conflict with arguing how instead of focusing on why, right? Why are we doing this, right? not necessarily on how it could be done. How it could be done, we have more options, but you need to be able to fix why so that your vision is clear and your mission is understandable by all the key stakeholders. Then another key point when it comes to economic transformation is for you to realize that no one can do it alone anymore. So there will be partnerships. There will also be some level of aggregation, and there's going to be some level of integration happening, meaning that if you are starting from the mindset that you can do it alone, or you have always done it alone and succeeded, when you embark on economic transformation, you realize, no, you have to be part of an economic ecosystem and you understand your own roles. And another key point I don't want to miss is to keep an eye on what I call the environment, not just the leveling environment in this case, because the economy, you are not an economy on your own, you're part of an economic system, right? So you need to keep an eye on what is happening outside both the external environment and internal environment. Maybe the policies are being promulgated. You need to look at the laws that are going into so that you check how that fits into your own overall goal. And again, you definitely have to make sure that you are, like I said, appetite for change, your openness to change. And agree, in summary, agree on your success pillars, or what you call the measurement pillars. Then discuss and check whether first you need to go through the unlearning process where you say, for example, I used to come into the environment and I see all my workers, they're on a very long chair, right? And I sit at the end like the board chair, right? But I want to transform level. Then you realize you have to work in a situation where you have not seen anybody. You have to employ, promote without making any physical contacts. So that's become the first thing you have to deal with, your appetite for change and the unlearning that needs to be done. Then you embark on the progression to execute them. And also you look at what I call the early signs to know whether you're on the right path. Because one good thing with digital transformation, economic transformation, is that the rapidity and rate of change, things keep changing, meaning that you can go 90% completion and go back to zero because that future has changed. That destination is no longer there. That outcomes you were expecting are no longer existing. So you need to quickly come back, rethink, and continue the journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harrison. I think if I can summarize the points you are making. So economic transformation shouldn't just focus on what you're making in terms of money or how you do revenue, but deciding on what will then become your new revenue base, what will become your transformation from an SME or partner perspective, and you might need to change them depending on how business has changed or how your engagement model will change, so that at least the appetite for change, as you call it from a change management perspective, are the things that will decide how successful you might be either internally or how you transform your partners that will help you to reach the new financial goals and the new sectors of priority that you are focused on in terms of the economy. I just want to ask a closing question in terms of the group. So if you're looking at economic transformation, if you are talking to a CIO, what is the top 3 things that must be on his checklist? Things that he can do now to help prepare him for that journey.
So I as a group CISO, I have conversations with the CIOs a lot. Let me first speak that you can be right and still go into extinction. And I've seen a reference to Nokia, right? Meaning that a CIO has to be a transformation officer. It has to be strategic, yeah. And being strategic in this digital ecosystem means that you have to see further into the future and not necessarily try to sustain operations and keep availability. That's no longer the core role of a CIO, right? Now, so for CIOs, the question is, if I continue to run this way, where will I be in 5 years' time or in 10 years' time? So you're looking at what will be my market share, what will be the revenue, because every company today is a technology company, right? Meaning that the CIO is at the core, at the center of that technology, technology interventions that the companies will work on. So that's what first is the strategic view. Yeah, meaning that you can change even what is working. Something is working, because from the palace, the original palace, if it's working, sustain it, right? But today, if it is working and it's not aligned with the long-term strategy, change it now while it's still working. So that's the first. Second is for the CIO to understand that partnership, the ecosystem has become a chain. So you're just going to be one part or many parts of that chain. And to understand that that partnership is key. So it's no longer a situation where you say, all my staff report to me and everything is in-house. I want to be able to grow my own skills and keep them. It's not possible. The changes are happening too fast. So partnership has to be very key. Then again, as a CISO, I always tell every CIO, in the digital era, you need to keep your eye on security, because then you can move 20 kilometers and realize that you have moved in the wrong direction, okay? So you have to be strategic. You have to be open to partnerships, okay? So that you can grow, you can leverage your own skills and then leverage, right? Then you also need to focus on cyber security and then being strategic is all about new technologies and new occurrences and also new streams, either streams of income or streams of distraction. You also need to keep your eye on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harrison. I think you've given me the lead into the next thing. So obviously being strategic, being focused, looking at your resourcing and taking cognizance of security, because I think when we go digital, when we go cloud, how safe do you keep your environment are some of the things that goes there. But I think the constant point of change that's coming up is bringing us to Ebuka now, I think our final panelist on this, because when a business goes through business transformation and its focus normally is how do I improve stuff, how do I make it operate better, what do I need to implement and so on. But I think the issue around change management for me is very, very key. So if you can maybe give us your perspective around from a digital transformation journey, how should a business focus on transforming themselves to firstly even be ready for this journey? And secondly, how do they go on living it and keeping it alive? Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So first, business really should identify the goals for the transformation. What exactly are you trying to achieve? All right, so a couple of businesses basically just jump on the bubble of digital transformation and start putting a lot of tools and applications into the whole mix. And at the end of the day, you're not really getting the value, the goals. So the first thing is to identify the goal for the transformation. Is the company really trying to incorporate new technology, change processes, diversify its business model, reduce costs, and so on? Okay, then that's the very first thing. Then after that is basically to establish the metrics. We basically need to understand what are the baseline metrics, what are those KPIs that we really need to track to really understand if we're really achieving our business transformation ambition. So it's not just about the buzzword, jumping on the buzzword and sticking on it and every board meeting. It's about really putting the right strategy in place, understanding the KPIs to measure the success. Then also is bringing all the stakeholders. It's digital transformation, cost per call, people, processes, and technology. It involves also a culture change in the organization. People have to start thinking differently. People have to start accepting things, the new way of doing things. So there must be deliberate activity, there must be deliberate actions that must be taken to bring everyone into the whole program of the digital transformation program, get everyone all included in it, create the right awareness in the organization, create the right skills in the organization where it's lacking, and basically execute on a definite plan. When all these things are in place, then the next thing is to now map out the best scenario. How then are we now going to engage in the transformation? What areas of the business are we starting with? What areas of the business are we going to do next? What are the key key wins that we want to achieve? Do we want to basically enable users to and our customers? Do we want to focus on transforming on the customer pain? We want to focus first on transforming internally, improving the processes of the organization, enabling cost staff to also be more efficient, identifying those scenarios, and then put in place the right technology and the right processes and the right strategy to execute that. But we also know that these come with their own challenges, really. We understand that in every digital transformation endeavor, which also involves things like cloud adoption, involves things like change management, there are really challenges that come with it. For example, when it comes to cloud adoption, one of the first things that sits in the face of organizations is the government regulations and data sovereignty. That's very strong. So regulations that basically talk about certain types of data that should not leave the shores of the business, shores of the country. But then those can be overcome as well by critically understanding the permissible actions in those regulations and understanding basically what is allowed and deploying models that actually support aligns with that regulation. There's also a very strong perception of lack of security when it comes to transforming your businesses. Okay, I was having a discussion with someone not so long ago, basically, and before the pandemic struck, he was actually really focused on, he couldn't work outside the office. Every little work that needed to be done, he must have to physically present. I was having a discussion, why is this not possible? Why can't you work outside the office? And his response was basically that by extending by being able to connect from home to work from office, it increases the security risk in the organization. Yes, such could exist, but at the same time, those are perceptions that we also need to tackle. We need to deploy the right tools as well to safeguard our IT assets. Other challenges that also affect businesses as well is the IT skills gap and the talent gap. So there's a dearth of talent when it comes to digital transformation, because we are talking of new kind of tools, new kinds of technologies, new kinds of system architectures, new kind of processes. People need to understand this thing. People need to be trained. People need to be, right awareness has to be built in the spaces of the workforce and even the customers out there. So these are some of the challenges that affect that. But one thing that is very key is that for every digital transformation endeavor, it's very important that the right goals are set, the right metrics are understood, there's the right engagement of stakeholders. It has to also be led from the top as well. The chief executives have to be involved in this whole transformational program. And at the same time, the right strategy has to be put in place to ensure that the whole program, the digital transformation program, is actually very, very successful. We also understand that digital transformation has come to stay. Organizations really have to do this. Businesses have to do that because the business landscape is becoming increasingly digital. Competition is very fierce right now, right? The speed of churning out new products, changing, creating new offers, responding to market needs is very fast. And how do we actually ensure that our organizations, our businesses are equipped to be able to respond and to be able to compete favorably in this ever increasingly fiercely competitive market? That's where digital transformation comes in. Also, the workforce today is becoming increasingly mobile. Remote work is becoming mainstream. So the whole business landscape is changing. User experience expectations are becoming even much more significant. Customers today, users understand what they want. They know what they want. They demand a certain level of service from you, right? And if the business is not able to give that, they work to the next business. Technology modernization will keep on happening. And in all of this, there's a need for increased cybersecurity. So putting all these things in mind, understanding the reasons why digital transformations must happen, understanding the steps, like I just explained, how organizations can actually take in moving into this space will enable businesses to be a lot more successful in the digital transformation program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you couldn't have summed it up better. I think what's important is that the change in digital transformation is not just the customer journey. It's also educating them. It's also educating the people in your business that needs to serve them. It's educating the decision-making processes that covers your executive. It's improving your governance and your security to make sure that you are able to adapt to the new normal, if I can call it that you then need to live in. But I think my final question to you is that change management, and I think it's been raised as a consistent theme, and I know Dr. Denisha needed to have left us already because from a citizen perspective, she spoke about that. Natasha started covering that in her perspective from a technology perspective and how that changes an organization. The same thing with Harrison as well from an economic perspective. And finally, from a business perspective, what are the key change enablers? If you can give me just the top two of what businesses should focus on implementing in engaging a digital transformation.
Okay, all right. So one of first is basically the culture of the organization, the way the organization sees things, the workforce, the leaders, everybody, the whole culture of the organization. That is one of the first things that needs to be addressed in a digital transformation program when it comes to change management. That involves a whole lot of things that can be put in place in terms of awareness, training, and all that. That is very key. Then also next is processes, because if you don't transform internally, you can't actually transform externally. So being able to transform the internal processes of the organization, being able to put in place more agile and more flexible ways of doing things, and that can be done through a whole lot of approaches, through process automation, digital workflows, remote tools, and all that. These, for me, are the most important things an organization could transform. Now, by transforming internally, the organization is very well positioned to actually transform externally by supporting its customers and partners and making the whole way of service, the whole process of service delivery a whole lot better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ebuka. I think I want to thank my panel members for their valuable contributions. I think each one of you has given us a focus in terms of the 4 transformation areas that covers digital transformation. I think in closing, my statement and advice to the members here today is to say that understand your digital transformation journey is not just about the technology. It's not just about the people or the customers. It's not just about the economies or the making of money or revenue. It's not just about transforming your businesses. But what it is about 4 fundamental principles that needs to underpin every engagement that you do. The first one is it easier for our customers to do business with us? The second one is, how can we make this a sustainable journey that can last past the crisis that we have? The third one is, how are we going to transform our people and resourcing to make sure they can cater for the new need? The fourth one is are you ready for an instant real-time world? Because digital transformation has the potential to turn your business from a 9-to-5 business to a 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, cutting across borders and timelines. And how are you going to deal with that sudden change in terms of the culture and your ability to provide that service? I'd like to thank my panel and Anisha. I'm handing back over to you. And digital transformation, I think, is something that's going to stay with us. COVID-19 has showed us how much we would need that. But now that we showed that we can work from home, how do we regress, or should I say progress, to a hybrid scenario where we can do both, minimize our cost, but optimize our reach? Thank you very much.